How many times have you heard that to succeed in life, you need to be the smartest, the strongest, or the fastest? In a world where everyone seems to be competing for attention, there's a strategy that goes against all of that: playing the fool. Yes, it might sound strange at first, but great thinkers like Sun Tzu and Schopenhauer teach us that many times hiding your true strength or even appearing naive can be the key to unexpected victories. After all, who expects something extraordinary from someone who seems so naive? Across the vast field of wisdom, we find a surprisingly common principle among different cultures: the importance of seeming weak to, in fact, guarantee victory. Sun Tzu, the famous Chinese military strategist, and Arthur Schopenhauer, the German philosopher known for his pessimistic outlook on life, bring this idea to light in different yet complementary ways. Each one, in their own context, explores how hiding your strength can be a powerful weapon, allowing someone to move forward quietly without raising any threats. For Sun Tzu, concealing strength is an essential technique to avoid unnecessary conflicts. In The Art of War, he advises that by appearing incapable of taking action, you create a false sense of security in your enemy, while in the background, your real strength is preparing for the decisive moment. For Schopenhauer, this concept translates into personal and social interactions. He suggests that by taking on the role of the fool, you disarm those around you, avoiding jealousy and resentment, which are often directed at those who show too much power or knowledge. So, while Sun Tzu speaks about winning battles, Schopenhauer teaches us how to win in the everyday intrigues of life. At first glance, these ideas may seem outdated or only applicable in extreme situations, but they hold great relevance in modern life. Think about the interactions you have daily, whether at work, with friends, or even on social media. How many times does showing too much power or knowledge end up causing friction? Simply downplaying your abilities, whether intellectually or physically, can avoid conflicts that would otherwise arise from others' insecurities or competitiveness. At the same time, it gives you the chance to quietly observe and, when the moment is right, act with precision. Sun Tzu and Schopenhauer offer not just a lesson in survival, but a reflection on how life isn't just about what you have or know, but about how you choose to present that to the world. At its core, what these two thinkers teach us is that real strength lies in the intelligence of knowing how and when to use it. It seems counterintuitive, but in many cases, those who rush to show off their power end up harming themselves. On the other hand, those who stay in the shadows observing have the advantage of acting at the right moment, and that moment is always crucial. Now, think about how this applies to your everyday life. You know those situations where everyone around you seems to be competing to show who knows more or is more capable. What if, instead of joining that race, you chose to sit back and quietly observe, waiting for the right opportunity to make a precise comment or take a strategic action? Sun Tzu tells us that wars aren't won with brute force, but with strategy. Schopenhauer adds that social battles aren't won by those who speak the loudest, but by those who know how to position themselves in the right place at the right time. The idea of humility as a strength might seem contradictory in a world where we're constantly pushed to stand out. However, great thinkers like Schopenhauer show that underestimating yourself can actually be a highly effective strategy. Strategic humility is different from simply being modest. It's about intentionally using modesty to create room for growth and avoid conflicts. Unlike the traditional view, where success is linked to imposing yourself, this approach teaches us that by not appearing threatening, you can progress in a more subtle, yet much more impactful way. Schopenhauer believed that by seeming less ambitious or even a little uninterested, you disarm those around you. Think about situations where people quickly judge those who stand out too much. Envy, resentment, and even rivalry can easily arise. And when that happens, friction becomes inevitable. In this sense, humility becomes a sort of invisible defense. By appearing to be less, you gain the opportunity to grow quietly, while others waste their energy competing with each other. This idea shows up in everyday life in subtle yet powerful ways. In many social or professional interactions, simply not showing all your knowledge or ambitions can help you avoid misunderstandings or unnecessary alliances. For instance, by not flaunting your desire to climb the ladder or achieve something important, you protect yourself from potential rivals. People who don't see you as a direct threat are more likely to let their guard down. And it's precisely in this unassuming posture that strategic strength lies. This concept also appears when we look at contemporary examples of success. Many leaders who stand out today across various fields knew how to move quietly before reaching their prominent positions. By appearing less competitive, they managed to advance without drawing negative attention. In this context, humility isn't an act of weakness, but a deliberate choice of strategy. By controlling how others perceive your ambition and intelligence, you create space to move with much more freedom and fewer obstacles. Schopenhauer wasn't talking about passive humility, but an active humility, a kind of humility that deceives, that hides true power to reveal itself only at the right moment. In a world where competition often leads to direct confrontations, knowing how to position yourself as someone lesser is actually a way to gain control over the situation. And this is one of the keys to success. When we think about vulnerability, the first thing that comes to mind is the idea of weakness. After all, in a society that values strength and success so much, who wants to be seen as vulnerable? But Schopenhauer, and more recently Brené Brown, show us that vulnerability can be one of the most powerful tools we have, especially when it comes to human relationships. Showing weakness, when done consciously and strategically, can disarm others, strengthening not only bonds but also mutual trust. Schopenhauer believed that by appearing vulnerable, the people around us tend to let their guard down. This allows us to see others' intentions more clearly, while also protecting us from becoming targets of resentment or rivalry. Vulnerability, in this sense, becomes a way to buy time, to observe the situation while others become more transparent. When you show vulnerability, people feel more comfortable being genuine as well. Researcher Brené Brown takes this concept a step further, showing that vulnerability, beyond being a strategic tool, is essential for building genuine connections. Think about moments in your life when you shared something personal with someone. Most of the time, it made the other person open up too, leading to a deeper and more genuine exchange. Vulnerability then stops being a sign of weakness and instead becomes a strength where relationships grow more authentic and solid. Of course, there's a delicate balance to maintain. Showing too much vulnerability can leave us feeling exposed or at a disadvantage. The key lies in knowing when and with whom to reveal this more sensitive part of ourselves. In interactions where there's distrust or competition, for instance, a controlled amount of vulnerability can disarm the other side, making room for a more honest and less defensive conversation. Schopenhauer would remind us that by doing this, you're placing yourself in a strategic position of advantage, because by not appearing threatening, people tend to lower their defenses and reveal more of themselves. Vulnerability, therefore, isn't something to be feared or avoided. It's actually a tool for connection, a social strategy, and above all, a means of building trust. When used wisely, it can transform even the most complex interactions and forge bonds that stand the test of time. In the end, the person who shows vulnerability often ends up gaining the most, both in terms of relationships and understanding of the dynamics around them. Sometimes, the greatest victories don't come from the loudest voice, but from those who Know the right moment to speak or act. Concealing your strength, appearing naive, might be one of the oldest strategies, but it's also one of the most effective. After all, what's more powerful? Being feared from the start or surprising others when they least expect it.